I feel like so much more nervous now that Megan's not here because I'm like, eh, but
You actually have to run something.
what?
Yeah, I
How does
know.
that happen? All right. Good morning and aloha because I'm in Hawaii right now. I,
Rub it in, rub it in.
I know I wanted to go to the beach and like do a shot from, the sand, but I don't have a hotspot. So I'm hiding on my front porch and you can just hear traffic.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. It's like the
But
same
you're
thing.
outside, not roasting though. That's good.
Yes, it is cool. The problem is keeping this contained. I feel like the longer the day goes, you just gotta like keep straight. See how like professional this looks?
I
But if
like
I
it.
turn,
Not
you know,
bad, not
right in
bad.
the back. It's like a black person's mohawk, not mohawk, mullet, right?
There's nothing wrong with mullets, by the way. They should
All
never
right,
have gone out of style.
yes, all the time. Okay, let's jump in. I'm Tunisia. I'm with Brick by Brick Real Estate. We have Brian here. We are mourning the loss of Megan. She is no longer with us, but she will be here forever in our hearts. So if you are joining us live and you are chatting, I will do my best to keep an eye on you and involve you in the conversation. But today we're going to be talking about affordability, the market, jumping into kind of where things are going, how things have been. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the reins over to Brian so he can share his screen and we will be off to the races.
Here we go. Let's see if this works. Yes. Did it work?
Yes, we're there.
Yes, first try. This has never happened.
Never. Okay, tell me what we're looking at.
Well, we have a tool that we use a lot, and because the question often comes up, what do I qualify for versus what can I afford? And those are often two different questions. And usually, how we'll start out a conversation with when you're a home buyer is to find out where do you think you're gonna what do you think you can afford? Some people have an exact idea. Most do not, of what payment they're looking at, what down payment. We look at all other debts, all other debt payments you may have. We go over all that and figure it out. But this tool here it's what we call an affordability calculator, and it will say, all right, if you make X dollars, your income is X, and your liabilities, your other debts are X or Y, what will you qualify for? And these we can do several different combinations, of course, but we wanted to run over one example, run through one example, and kind of give you an idea of generally kind of how it works, right? So the way we do it is this: if your household income, or the income that we can use to qualify you for a mortgage, and that would be salary, overtime, commission income, if you're on any retirement income, that kind of stuff, anything that we can use to qualify you. Let's say it's $88,000 per year, right? It can be combined. It can be one of you, one spouse, one of the other, whatever. And we just take a general interest rate, let's say 2.75 on a regular plain Jane mortgage, and you have about 35,000 available.
Just a general interest rate of 2.75. Like that's just like a normal thing. It's totally fine. I love how casual you were about that. Like, yeah. Just general.
Generally great. Yeah. And that's funny you say that, because the interest rates do change based on several factors: credit scores, loan amounts, type of property, that kind of thing. But as a side note, interest rates are doing great. For the anticipation was that as inflation increases, so do interest rates. Inflation is the arch enemy of interest rates. So when inflation goes up, interest rates go up. And we've seen some inflation. I think we see it more than it's being reported, based on the official numbers. But the bond market, which controls interest rates, has been doing very well, and we've seen some declining interest rates as of like last few days, actually, few weeks.
Just kind of taking a step back and looking over the past year, I feel like we're all kind of reminiscing because we're hitting this official year mark or unofficial year mark or year and a half of COVID and whatnot. And I remember when about probably 2 years ago, you had called me and you're like, hey, there's this thing called COVID. It's in China. Like, interest rates are going really low. It's great for that factor. And I'm like, great, cool. Don't know what that means. And here we are. And so for those who are just joining in or kind of new to the home market as far as purchasing, your interest rate is going to play a huge role in your affordability. So the lower the rate is, the more you'll be able to afford. And so what's been kind of one of the factors of many of the housing market that we're in right now and what you're able to afford is based off that number. And Brian, can you just kind of give us some basic breakdowns? Like if we were looking at this 2 years ago, I feel like interest rates were like 4%,
Yeah, they're a
3.
little higher. Yes. In fact, let me show you the official.
Yeah, like what's the difference of what someone can afford right now in this market versus a year ago? I know I'm derailing you, but
Well, you're
I
good.
just
No, you're good. Look,
want to
check.
make
This
that
is
point.
here. If you can see this, this is average interest rates over a time period. Let me see what we got here. This is 2015. Here, this is a good. Okay, so if you look here on this graph, this is the official, what's called Freddie Mac official interest rate average. They take a survey every week. These come out every week or so, every week. And these are the average interest rates. So if you look back pre-COVID, when did COVID hit? Tunisia, was it 2020, right?
2020, yep.
I guess that is. So we're kind of in here, what, Thursday, May, February here. So here are interest rates really kind of pre-COVID. We're 3.6. So you see 3.65 on that top line there. 30-year FRM fixed rate mortgage was 3.65. So here we are down about the average rate of about, I guess right now at 2.9. That's last week, and we're about an eighth to a quarter percent. So we're more like 2.7, 2.8 range right now. So the question then is, what is the difference between, let's say, 3.65 and current interest rates? So let's first look at this one. Based on the income of this scenario, we've got at this 2.75% interest rate. This guy here, this couple would qualify for a sales price of $572,558, so about 572. If we simply raise the rate to pre-COVID levels, let's say 3.65, that reduces that to 514,000. So that's $60,000 or so.
It's a big deal.
It was a huge deal, especially right now with the way home prices are. That's a big deal.
Definitely. I know with a lot of my buyers, we'll kind of break down different scenarios of purchasing. And it's interesting to see what type of home you can get on one budget versus those changes to what the affordability looks like. And the amount of house, where that house is located, all of those things are definitely big factors. So, and what's nice is, so we have our At the Point Real Estate Facebook page. We once a month, actually more often than that, are consistently posting interest rate updates. So if you ever see a little padlock, if it's unlocked and you're getting ready to lock in your mortgage, our recommendation is to wait, hold out a little bit. If it's locked, it's saying, hey, interest rates are great, go ahead and lock that in. So if this is something that you're checking in on a consistent basis, join us on those social media pages and we'll be able to help give feedback as well as reach out at any time. And we can run this scenario that we're looking at right now specifically for you. So let's keep going. What else do we need to know as far as what we can afford and how all of those pieces break down?
Okay, great. So I'm going to put 3% in there. We'll be a little pessimistic and just give you an idea. But so if your income is 88,000 per year that we can, qualifying, what they call qualifying income, and you have a 3% interest rate, then essentially this is what you're looking at. If you bought a house for 555 and used your money for your down payment and all that, here's what payment you would end up with under that scenario. And this includes, now, whenever you make your mortgage payment, to those of you who have not done this before, you have 3 or 4 factors that factor into your payment. First one is, of course, your principal and interest payment. That's the payment on the mortgage itself. So if you borrow a certain amount of money, just like a car loan, if you borrow a certain amount of money, you're going to make this $21.95 every month for 30 years, unless you pay it off earlier. In part of that payment, the lenders want to make sure that the property taxes on the house, so every house is assessed a value by the county that you're in, Salt Lake County or Utah County, whatever. And the county says, okay, if your house is worth $482,000 this year, and here's the tax rate, and that's 1/12 of that. So we're just kind of guessing. That may be a little high, but we're guessing, kind of taking a stab at it there. So that costs you $417 a month there. Also is your homeowner's insurance. That's included. That is your insurance, whoever your insurance guy is or person you want to use for your insurance. It's your quote. You shop around all you want for that. And that's $83 a month, let's say in this case. It's about $1,000 a year. And then if you're buying a home that's either a condominium or it's in a planned unit development, which is very common, then you may have an association a fee, which is not on this case, it's not there in this case, right? This one is actually mortgage insurance. Whenever you put less than 20% down, which most of us can't do that, then you have what's called mortgage insurance. And that will be determined by your credit score, how much down payment exactly. But this is kind of a happy medium of what it would probably be in this particular case. And then that's what sums up your 2867.
So I want to talk about a little bit more on this mortgage insurance and the affordability factor, because just like you said, a lot of buyers, especially first-time home buyers, and even buyers who have bought homes before, are in a category where they aren't able to put 20% down. I feel like that's sometimes news to new first-time home buyers. And so they're basing their affordability of like, hey, I can't afford to buy a house because I don't have enough money for a down payment. So I want to ask you, Brian, there's a program out there where first-time home buyers can leverage their down payment. And can you tell me the most they would need to have in order to qualify for that loan for that down payment?
Yes. So the main one that we use is zero. The answer is zero. The main program is what's called Utah Housing, and that's a program that's been around since the late 70s, and it's kind of a quasi government Utah state government thing, kind of partial private, part government. And what they allow us to do is actually literally buy a house with zero down. And there are some limitations on it as far as the sales price. That's the big one. There's a max sales price on it. And it's in the 400 range, in the low to mid 400,000 range. But we do them all the time. It's a pretty good program.
So on that note, just kind of like, I feel like a mindset shift definitely is in order for anyone who's kind of in this mind funk of, hey, I have to have this down. So if we were to take this 172, which is their mortgage insurance, right, that they would be paying towards their loan, a lot of people are trying to avoid that, right? So
Correct.
If I take 172 and let's say I multiply it by a year, that's $2,000, right?
Right.
And so in a lot of buyers' minds are like, I need to wait 1 year, 2 years. Let's say it's even 3. We're talking $4,000 of a difference of what they would be paying into this mortgage insurance, right?
Yes.
And so, Brian, how much is $4,000 difference in someone's loan? Like, how much more a month would they be paying off of the total $4,000 if their loan changed that much?
In other words, if you came up with more down payment to eliminate the mortgage insurance, right?
Yes and no. So I know this is kind of backwards and inside out, and it's not quite how things align. But at the end of the day, the point I'm trying to illustrate is how much can someone realistically save for that down payment within a calendar year? If they're thinking, okay, I can save 30,000, I can save 20,000, whatever that dollar amount is, right?
Yeah.
They're pretty much avoiding that $2,000 extra payment, right?
Right.
But I guess the real question is that difference in 30,000, 10,000? Because really what it comes down to is we're not able to save as much as the market is progressing higher, to where by the time we get to that year mark, a lot of people are like, well, crap, the market just keeps running away from me.
Yeah.
And it's because it's not able to progress at that rate of us saving versus what the market's doing.
Right.
And so even though we're afraid of that $2,000 or $4,000 or whatever that may be, in the big picture of things, especially when you're talking about a home and investment, inflation, and all of those factors, that amount is pennies on the dollar compared to other factors that are going to kind of limit your progression overall. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Maybe
it does.
Break down what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people say, hey, I just don't want to pay mortgage insurance no matter what. I say that's great, but it's 20% down in order to avoid that. And so what would happen in this particular scenario? We're assuming essentially 5% down, a minimum down, well, not the minimum, but a minimum down, a smaller down payment to save. If you wanted to buy a house for this 555, let's say that same one, you're going to need what, 120,000 down or so, so the question is, how long would it take you to save the 120,000? And if the answer is, hey, I can save $30,000 per year, then it's going to be 4 years. Well, I guess 3 years. You already have 35. So it'd be 3 more years. And then we go back to that same house. This same house, what's it going to cost in 3 years? That's the question.
And in this market, it's kind of like, what is it going to cost next week? I feel like
Right.
it's
So,
definitely changing on a consistent basis, right?
yeah, exactly. And so that's really what most people, I think there are very few exceptions. Most people cannot keep pace with saving down payment versus appreciation. That's the kicker. Yeah. And that's really the issue. And plus keep in mind that you're not dealing with just sales price increasing. You're dealing with many years of being behind, because if you buy this house, let's say now for 555, then if you waited and bought the same house for 600,000, let's say in 3 years or whatever, then it's you'll take, let's calculate this out. I'll bet you it's 8-10 years before you get to where you would have been, because by the time you pay that mortgage down all the way down to where you would have been at 555,000 versus 600, that's going to take you many years to get down to that level.
That starting point one.
Yeah. So saving for 2 or 3 years in many cases, it's probably 10 years. You're going to be paying more for 10 years at least.
And that's 10 years that you're paying someone else's mortgage. You're not progressing your own goals.
Right.
And overall, I feel like that's probably one of the main conversation points with affordability is, how much do I need to have down? And so just kind of illustrating that point, I know the market changes on a consistent basis, right? It's going up, it's going down.
Yeah.
The market isn't going to continue on the trajectory that it's on right now for forever. But what I can say is every single homeowner that we've helped secure a home doesn't have regrets, right? Especially now in this market, right?
Yeah.
They've netted an absurd amount of money based off of them, and they're so based off of the market going up, and they're so grateful that they were able to take that lunge. And it is scary and it is nerve-wracking to do something that you've never done before. This, for most of us, is the biggest investment of our lives. So
Right.
definitely understanding kind of where the market's at right now. Interest rates are huge. Our market is definitely one to navigate with an experienced agent to be able to find those pockets and sweet spots. But we've been able to do that with our clients and be able to secure that. And so I just want to illustrate kind of with affordability, just kind of recapping, our interest rates are phenomenal right now. We just illustrated at the beginning the difference of what home you can afford, and you don't have to have 20% down. And then with our overall budget, you'll notice, okay, if you're seeing this total payment, you're thinking, wow, that's a big chunk of change. I don't know if that's affordable to me. We understand that too. And just like Brian had said at the very beginning, what you can afford and what you are pre-qualified for are two separate things. So kind of breaking down all of these moving parts and knowing, okay, yes, I can technically afford this. Here's my sweet spot. This is what it looks affordability wise. I have an experienced agent who can help me stay within that affordability and negotiate the terms of my contract to make sure it's meeting my needs. You're able to afford and move forward now. And if you don't know if you are, that's the perfect time to get connected with us so we can put together a game plan to see what that looks like into the future.
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of people just come in not knowing where they stand, and you can guess. You can keep guessing and guessing, and a lot of times you just get your word. Like for example, calculating this payment specifically for you can be very difficult because the mortgage insurance rates are very, 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 they vary a ton. This one here, by the way, I was going to make a note about the mortgage insurance. Don't worry about the mortgage insurance so much. The one way I like to think about mortgage insurance is think about it as part of an interest rate. So it's generally, when you put like a normal 5% down payment, let's say, if you have good credit scores, it's only about 0.5%. So if you're at record low interest rates of 2.75, 0.5% added to that's like 3.25, which is still a phenomenal interest rate. So think of it that way. So it's not think of it as interest.
And it doesn't last forever.
Yeah. And it does fall off eventually.
Yes. And what's nice is with all of our clients, we're keeping an eye on this consistently for them. So we have programs, we have bots that are consistently looking at the value of your home, how things are appreciating. You can have notifications to see how that's comparing your specific home to the market. And if we're getting closer, which in this market, a lot of people are hitting that 20% equity line within a year, if not sooner. Obviously, that time bracket is going to change based off of our market conditions, but this is something that maybe you're paying for a few years total. So again, kind of back to that couple thousand mark, but that shouldn't be the difference of you moving forward. It's going to hurt you more than help you.
Yeah.
One last thing that I did want to bring up as far as guessing and knowing exactly where you're at is that annual income number. I feel like a lot of us know, okay, this is how much money comes into my bank account and this is how much I can use to purchase a house. And unfortunately, it's not always that simple. There's definitely limits that loan officers and mortgage companies are tied to as far as what qualified income counts. You know, if you're self-employed, if you have income that hasn't been recorded, you know, through a side business or different things of that nature. So one thing too, at looking at your affordability is you understanding what your income channels are, knowing what you're pre-qualified for and what type of payment you are. For example, I'll have a couple where we can use one couple as their pre-qualification standards, and maybe the spouse doesn't have good credit, so it doesn't make sense to combine it at that front, but that other spouse is still making a living and has great income, and so that adjusts in their eyes what they can afford, right? Or on the flip side of it kind of goes in multiple ways. So knowing exactly what you can afford, painting that picture, it is a soft credit pull, but I can't tell you how many times we've been in situations where we've gotten the contract, we beat all odds and we're ready to move forward. And at that point, it's little too late as far as, oh, shoot, you know, we're not able to pre-qualify with this amount. Now it's not affordable. So just having all of your cards on the table, knowing exactly where you are, painting that picture, not having surprises is going to set you up for the most success possible. And I've got another question for Brian as far as how much it costs for working with any of us to be able to do a full credit analysis, to create that credit plan. It doesn't cost you anything.
Correct.
And what's nice is Brian's team is incredible at this. Like, we have clients who are on a 6-month credit plan repair, and they're able to know, you know, pay $6.35 here. Let's get this, you know, let's contact the credit bureau on these items. Like, it's literally down to the exact penny. And they have a perfect timeline of, okay, when I hit this point, this is going to happen. So whether you're looking to buy right now or in 5 years from now, we still want to have the conversation today. We want to create that picture. We want to create your roadmap to know exactly what your affordability looks like. And so I wanted to end on kind of what your forecast is, Brian, of affordability and what it looks like. I know sometimes we project this over the next 3 months, 6 months, and year. I'll let you kind of dictate the timeline based off of market conditions and what your thoughts are.
Yeah.
But what are we looking at affordability into the future? What are those main pieces that are going to affect home buyers and even sellers at this point? I know we haven't talked a lot about them, but how affordability and interest rates and these things play on both sides.
Yeah, it looks like interest rates, and they change throughout the day. They trade like stocks, these bonds, so they change all the time. But the trend has been of the last week or so, they've been going down. The entire bond market is waiting for the shoe to drop, the big inflation numbers to come out, and they just haven't come out yet. So when that happens, we'll see rates go up. You know, but this year looks pretty good so far. I mean,
you mean the shoe's gonna drop, and then the world's gonna end, and we're gonna have another housing crisis, right?
I don't know about that. We can dream. No, yeah, we don't see. You know, and Tanisha, you see this as well. It's just that there's an inventory shortage here in Utah. It's not letting up. It's and the low interest rate feeds that. But if you remember, you know, back pre-COVID, the market was crazy. It got crazier during COVID, of course, but the interest rates went up. We saw them go up about a half, 0.75%, almost a full percent actually, in about a year. And that didn't seem to matter much on demand. We still have a very strong demand, and now rates are super low, and it's even more demand. So
yeah, I feel like your facial expressions of reactions of like, I don't know, is kind of exactly what we wanted to illustrate, in the sense of, I know there's a lot of people like, the housing market's too crazy. I can't get under contract with something at a reasonable price. It's going to go way above. I don't want to pay thousands of dollars what a home is worth, right? And
Yeah.
they're waiting for the market to crash. They're waiting for things to shift. And the thing about our market right now that's different about markets in the past is it's so well supported. We have interest rate, which is only one factor. We have the housing deficit where there's so many buyers and not enough homes for sale. You know, we have right now, statistically, more people are staying in Utah. They're not moving out. So we have more people here. Like there's so many different factors. Also the draw of outside non-residents wanting to purchase in Utah is higher than in other times.
Yeah.
And so with all of these different supporting factors, the likelihood of an outside influence coming in is what would need to happen for something to shift dramatically. But if we're just looking at market standards and conditions, there's so much support that we're going to continue to coast. I have seen things shifting 100% in the sense of homes are staying on market a little bit longer. We have seen some price decreases, but overall it's still trajectory. The trajectory is up. It's just not like this.
Yeah.
You know, it's starting to flatten out a little bit, but we've been able to help clients even in this market secure homes, you know, $20,000-$30,000 under market value. There's definitely different strategies to target pockets, and there's still hope. I think that's the main point that we want to drive home is don't lose hope. You know, we're in this with you. If you haven't started, let's go. If you have been getting beat up with this market, you know, let's try a different avenue. Let's talk. Let's figure out what's been happening, what's not working, what is, and find that sweet spot for you.
I agree. Yeah, and it's good to hear that it's slowing up a little bit because it just wasn't very fun for a while. But as a buyer, it's just horrible. Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah.
But now you can actually look at a house before you make an offer on it, right?
Now you have 48 hours instead
of 48 whole hours. Yeah. Yeah.
No, but I appreciate you, Brian. I know last time a lot of people appreciated contact information. So Brian, what's the best number to get in contact with your team?
The best number is what's our number that gets someone all the time? It's 801. We have a new fancy number now. 801 716-1005.
Awesome. And Brian's with Security National. He's been a pleasure to work with. We're with Brick by Brick Real Estate. Either way, whether you're coming in through his channel or mine, we want to be able to help you. To talk to me directly, I'm at 385-352-3892. We're with Brick by Brick Real Estate. You can find us on social media platforms, and we're excited to talk. So this kind of wraps up our affordability. I appreciate your time, Brian.
All right, that was good.
Is there anything else? Kumbaya,
don't work too hard.
Aloha.
That's all I'm saying. Aloha.
I'm gonna go see that over there.
Very good. I'll see ya.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Take care.